कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदा नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदा नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी यशोदा नंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपाद की श्री राधा वृंदावन चंद्र जी की श्री गौरताई की श्री जगन्नाथ बल्लभ सुभद्रा सुदर्शन की श्री तिरुपति बालाजी की इस्कॉन एनवीसीसी धाम की निताय निताय गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Gaurachandraya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaghan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desha Dharine. Should we stop Sankirtan?
Hare Krishna. It's our good fortune to have His Grace Rishi Kumar Prabhu. Rishi Kumar Prabhu is disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and he is serving in ISKCON since 24 years. He is MBA by education, and 13 years he served in Indian Express and Hindustan Times at senior management level. And Rishi Kumar Prabhu is a monk since 2009 at ISKCON Delhi, and is Vice President of ISKCON Delhi and member ISKCON Resolve, and trustee in Anamrit Foundation distributing 1 million midday meals daily, and is trustee of Institute for Science and Spirituality, and is trustee for BASE Bhaktivedanta Academy of Culture and Education Delhi, and is secretary Organizational Structure and Accountability for ISKCON India, and Secretary Legal for ISKCON India, and Global Topper at GBC College for Spiritual Leadership, and is trainer for TTC courses and IBMV. Let us welcome Rishi Kumar for today's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sarlakshan Prabhu, for that encouraging yet embarrassing introduction. The problem with good introductions is you have to live up to it. Unfortunately, it doesn't talk whether I'm a devotee or not, so it's fine. All other qualifications are given. It's been my experience that every time I give a lecture, the last so many years, people come to me and say that your lecture was very scholarly, your language command is very good. But not one person ever said that it was so devotional. So now I understand what is the direction. So I seek blessing from my teacher, His Grace Vamsivadan Prabhu. It's very embarrassing for me to speak before him, but I will treat this as an opportunity to get valuable feedback for improvement. Thank you. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 18, text 53 till 62. There are purports for the 53rd verse and the 62nd verse. So we will read all the verses and the translation, and where there is a purport we'll read, but we'll focus on verse 62, which is 61 and 62, which is the full purport. So that you can display later. I guess you can show the whole set, then there's no issue. So text 53 is, like we said, the chapter is entirely Diti vows to kill King Indra. Striyo Veeravatis Charchet Sraganta Bali Mandanaihi Patim Charchyopatishteta Dhyayet Koshtagatam Chatam. So what is mentioned here is the Pumsavana Vrata that is being observed by Diti in order to get a son who can kill Indra, as all of you would have been hearing for the last few days. So it's mentioned, these are the details of the Vrata. With flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, ornaments and other paraphernalia, a woman following this vow should worship women who have sons and whose husbands are living. The pregnant wife should worship her husband and offer him prayers. She should meditate upon him, thinking that he is situated in her womb. Generally it's said Atmaja, the son is called Atmaja. It's as good as the father himself. It's mentioned like in 10th canto when the queens of Dwarka, they wanted to embrace Krishna, since he could not do because of social etiquette in public. They were very happy that their sons were embracing Krishna and they embraced him with their eyes themselves. That way it's mentioned. And King Prataparudra sending his son to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is another example of how Atmaja, effectively non-different from the son. So the child in the womb is a part of the husband's body. Therefore, the husband, through his representative, indirectly remains within the womb of his pregnant wife. The third canto mentions how the husband gives the life and the wife gives the body. That's how the construction happens within the womb. So, the next verse is Samvatsaram Pumsavanam Vratam Etat Aviplutam Dharayishyasi Chet Tubhyam Shakraha Bhavita Sutaha. Kashyapa Muni continued, if you perform this ceremony called Pumsavana, adhering to the vow with faith for at least 1 year, you will give birth to a son destined to kill Indra. But if there is any discrepancy in the discharge of this vow, the son will be a friend to Indra. Some or the other, we have lots of this happening in this canto itself. Vritrasura is also another case where Indra Shatroho. So there is just by that, Indra's enemy became one for one whom Indra is the enemy. So here again, this is mentioned how this person will become an enemy of Indra. Shakra means one of the names of Indra. Shakraha, Indraha. Indraha does not just mean enemy of Indra, it also means one who is a follower of Indra. So, when great personalities speak languages, you got to be a little careful what they actually mean. We should not just go by the literal meaning. That is why when we study the purports of the Acharyas, we have to study it in the disciplic succession. Because Srila Prabhupada said, you cannot jump over my Guru Maharaj, jump over me to study my Guru Maharaj books or beyond. So, we may not be able to understand the real purport of what a great personality says. Therefore, we need a combination of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. All three are required to understand the real purport. Now, we go to the next verse. Badhamid abhyupetyatha Diti Rajan Mahamanaha Kashyapad Garbham Adhatta Vratam Chanjo Dadharasa. O King Parikshit, Diti, the wife of Kashyapa, agreed to undergo the purificatory process known as Pumsavana. Yes, she said, I shall do everything according to your instructions. With great jubilation, she became pregnant, having taken semen from Kashyapa, and faithfully began discharging the vow. Matar Swasura Abhiprayam Indra Ajnaya Manada Susrushen Ashramastham Ditim Paryacharat Kavihi. O king, who are respectful to everyone, it should be who is, huh? O king, who are respectful to everyone, Indra understood Diti's purpose, and thus he contrived to fulfill his own interests, following the logic that self-preservation is the first law of nature. He wanted to break Diti's promise, thus he engaged himself in the service of Diti, his aunt, who was residing in an ashrama. Nityam vanat sumanasaha phala mula samet kushan patrangura mrudopascha kale kala upaharat. Mrudopascha. Patrangura mrudopascha kale kala upaharat. Indra served his aunt daily by bringing flowers, fruits, roots and wood for yajnas from the forest. He also brought kusha grass, leaves, sprouts, earth and water exactly at the proper time. Evam tasya vratasthaya vratachidram harirnupa prepsu paryachara jin... Oh, there's a misprint here. Jimo mriga heva mrigakritihi. O King Parikshit, as the hunter of a deer becomes like a deer by covering his body with deer skin and serving the deer, so Indra, although at heart the enemy of the sons of Diti, became outwardly friendly and served Diti in a faithful way. Indra's purpose was to cheat Diti as soon as he could find some fault in the way she discharged the vows of the ritualistic ceremony. However, he wanted to be undetected, and therefore he served her very carefully. Nadya gachat vratachidram tatparovatha mahipate Chintam Tivram Gatas Shakraha Kera me Syat Shivam Tviha. O master of the entire world, when Indra could find no faults, he thought, how will there be good fortune for me? Thus he was full of deep anxiety. Ekada Satu Sandhyayam Uchishta Vratakarshita Asprishta Varya Adhautangrihi Suswapa Vidhi Mohita. Having grown weak and thin because of strictly following the principles of the vow, Diti once unfortunately neglected to wash her mouth, hands and feet after eating and went to sleep during the evening twilight. Ladva tadantaram shakro idapakrita chetasaha diteh pravishta udaram yogesho yogamayaya. Finding this fault, Indra, who has all the mystic powers, the yoga siddhis such as Anima and Laghima, entered Diti's womb while she was unconscious, being fast asleep. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that a perfectly successful yogi is expert in 8 kinds of perfection. By one of them called Anima Siddhi, he can become smaller than an atom. And in that state, he can enter anywhere. With this yogic power, Indra entered the womb of Diti while she was pregnant. Now we come to verse 62. Chakarta saptadha garbham Vajrena kanaka prabham Rudantam saptadhaikaikam Marodirititan punaha Jagatta saptadha garbham Vajrena kanaka prabham Rudantam saptadhaikaikam Marodirititan punaha Chakarta saptadha garbham Vajrena kanaka prabham Rudandam saptadhaikaikam Marodirititan punaha. Vaishnavis mothers. Thank you very much. Word by word synonyms, translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and our preeminent Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki. Chakarta, he cut Saptadha into 7 pieces. Garbham, the embryo. Vajrena, by his thunderbolt. Kanaka, of gold. Prabham, which had the appearance. Rudantam, crying. Saptadha, into 7 pieces. Eka ekam, each one. Marodihi, do not cry. Iti, thus. Tan, them. Punaha, again. Kindly repeat after me the translation. After entering Diti's womb, Indra, with the help of his thunderbolt, cut into 7 pieces her embryo, which appeared like glowing gold. In 7 places, 7 different living beings began crying. Indra told them, do not cry. And then he cut each of them into 7 pieces again. Kindly listen intently to this purport by His Divine Grace. Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ji ki jai, Shri Gaurnita ki jai, Shri Jagannath Bale Subhadra Sudarshan ki jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that Indra, by his yogic power, first expanded the body of the one Marut into 7. And then when he cut each of the 7 parts of the original body into pieces, there were 49. When each body was cut into 7, other living entities entered the new bodies. And thus they were like plants, which become separate entities when cut into various parts and planted on a hill. The first body was one, and when it was cut into many pieces, many other living entities entered the new bodies. Srila Prabhupada ki. Sorry. Kali Yuga intelligence. Cannot remember much, so I have to depend on technology. This chapter, the 18th of Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, describes how Diti, whose sons had been killed by Vishnu, primarily we are talking about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, there could be many other sons. She performed austerities for a son to kill Indra. And how after Indra cut the child in Diti's womb into pieces, the embryo became the Maruta. In relating the descendants of Aditi's sons were being described, Kashyapa's family line. Aditi's sons, the Adityas, the Aditi's sons are Adityas, Diti's sons Daityas. So the Adityas, the 4th son was mentioned as Tvashta. Who's Tvashta? Father of Vishwarupa. And also Vritrasura. So in relation to him, the story of Vishwarupa's murder and the curse of Chitraketu, who later on became Vritrasura, this was described about Tvashta. So verses 1 to 9 talk about from Tvashta up to Indra and Vamana, the 11th and 12th, Vasurudra Aditya, there are various types of Devatas. The 12 Adityas, out of whom the 12th is Vamana. Very interesting that this canto describes how Vamana had a son, which we generally don't. Though we celebrate Vaman Dvadashi, we don't talk about how he had a wife and he had a son. So that is also mentioned here. Marutascha Diteh Putras Chatvaramshan Navadikaha Ta Asan Aprajas Sarve Nita Indrina Satmatam. So the 49 Maruts who were born from Diti's womb, they did not have sons. And so although they were born to Diti, then King Indra gave them the position of Devatas. So Satmatam, here is mentioned that Nita Indrena Satmatam. Satmatam meaning they are like Devatas who were worshipped as good as Indra. Just like Indra was worshipped, they became worshipped, the Maruts. So it is mentioned that Kim tat sadhu kritam hitaihi. This is the question Parishit Maharaj asks. Kim tat sadhu kritam. Why did Indra make these sons of Diti who are actually Daityas? Why did he make them Devatas? So this is the question he asks. Did they perform any pious activities because of which they could become Devatas? He is asking that question. So this is very interesting part. I'm sure it was described earlier, but I found it very interesting. I thought I'll share it again. That King Parishit asks Shukadeva Goswami that please describe this because everyone is eager to hear this. And it is mentioned Arthavat. He asked with many meanings. Parishit Maharaj asked this question with many meanings. So Acharyas talk about at least 3 meanings. One of them, which could be the lesson from this whole pastime of Diti performing the Payovrata. The first one is that you might have Bhakti even performed at a tamasic stage. It is starting from a tamasic stage, one performs Bhakti. But the purifying effect of Bhakti is such that eventually Tada Rajotamas and the whole thing is Kama Lobhadayaschaye Chete Etera Anavitam Sthite Sattvam Prasiddhati. So Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobhadayaschaye. So these eventually they disappear when one performs devotional service and one gets situated in the mode of sattva. So then one gains liberation from samsara and gives up the tendency for violence to others. This is a qualification of devotion. Because Vaishnava Paradukhe Dukhi, or the minimum that is expected of a Vaishnava is not to be violent to others. Which is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that real violence is if one does not preach. Non-violence is when one preaches. So that is why a devotee should be like that. Therefore it is mentioned Diti is a living proof of this. This is the first meaning of this story. By performing bhakti even in tamas, eventually the very purpose for which she performed her vrata, which is to kill Indra, was abnegated and she granted forgiveness to Indra because of the purifying effects of bhakti. So this is the first story or the first meaning of this story. Then this is very interesting. Those who have crooked tendency, they have a tendency to see faults in others. They are not able to see the faults in themselves. So Diti is saying Indra is such a low class person. He killed my sons because he was attached to the body. And she wants to kill Indra. So what is the difference between the two of them? There's nothing. She's doing the same thing that she's accusing Indra of. This is something where it's a quality of crooked people. This is mentioned by Acharyas. That they accuse people of doing something which they themselves are doing. So this is despite the fact that they are intelligent. They may be intelligent, but they don't see the same fault in others which they don't see the same fault in themselves that they see in others. So Diti is also an example, and starting with verse 24, her words start indicating this. So this is the second meaning. The first one is the tamasic effects of even tamasic bhakti performed eventually has a purifying effect. The second one is that crooked cannot find fault in themselves, the same fault they find in in others. And the third one is that a learned person, he can be cheated. He can also be cheated by the attraction of a woman. I don't want to sound politically correct by saying men for women and women for men. What is mentioned in Bhagavatam is that a person can be cheated by the attraction to a woman. Now, the fact is the one who is attracting and the one who is attracted are both cheated. So, Kashyapa is an example of this. Please remember, all this nonsense has happened because he's already done this mistake once. When they united in twilight time, when Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu appeared. So after some time, this comes in and she serves him very nicely. And so therefore it is mentioned often that women conquer by service. So for the women it is very clear that they should conquer their desires by service, not the people by service. And for the men, it is to be clear that by accepting service, we should be engaging them in service of the Guru Parampara also. Patim Vishwasyatmeshwaragam Shashvatagam Shivam Achyutam. Pati is Pati for the husband and Pati for the wife, both. That is Krishna. He is Pati for both. So when they act like that, the third partner, ISKCON Congregation Ministry has a book called The Third Partner. So there is husband, wife and Krishna at the center. So then it becomes ashrama. After the, very interestingly, Diti is speaking high quality philosophy. It comes in Bhagavatam also, this rest of the other parts of Bhagavatam also, that she says even the body of a king, it gets eaten by worms or it becomes ashes after death. If it is eaten by dogs, it becomes stool. So if it is burned by the suns, it becomes ashes. So this has been the definition of the body of a king. So this is, previous kings have also been enduring this particular fate. So does one who commits violence to other beings for maintaining his body know his own benefit? Diti is asking. One who commits violence to other beings for maintaining his body, does he know his own benefit? He does not, because he goes to hell. What about Diti, who wants violence to be committed against Indra? So that is not lost on her. That is lost on her when she is saying this. So she also is without intelligence because she wants to kill Indra. Acharyas clearly conclude. The very same accusation she has of Indra. And one can see that both Diti as well as Indra are therefore very, very hard-hearted, because they want to commit violence. For a sadhaka, it should be clear that one should be soft-hearted towards Krishna and hard-hearted towards Maya. Krishna meaning Krishna with all his devotees, paraphernalia, etc. So it is mentioned that a person with real intelligence can therefore determine with discernment the lack of discernment of unintelligent people. An intelligent person can apply his discernment and understand the lack of discernment present in unintelligent people. So it is mentioned that Patir evahi narinam daivatam paramam smritam. Kashyapa is telling Diti that the Patim evahi, Patir evahi narinam, for a woman, the husband himself is Daivatam Paramam Smritam. So the husband is a Jiva. How can he be the Lord? Daivatam. So the Supreme Lord Vasudeva is the presiding deity of the Chitta, which is Manasaha. And he is worshipped by the Karma Yogis by indications of the Devatas, such as Indra, Varuna, etc. They are Indra and the forms like his form holding a thunderbolt, Vajra. So the Lord is also similarly addressed by various names and forms with words like Indra, Yasvaha, Agnaye, Swaha. They are all indicating the Lord himself. Similarly, the Lord in the form of thunderbolt, the Lord in the form of a husband, not different. The Lord in the form of a husband is worshipped by his wife. Indra Hanam, we discussed, or Shakraha, means one who is the killer of Indra. But it can also mean a follower of Indra, since Hana, or Ha means to also to go or to follow. So, there is also a word called Amartum that comes about the Maruts, which means eventually they will become Devatas. So one Devata will be divided into 49 parts. So initially he uses the word Putram. He uses the word Devata, he uses the word Putram, who will be born out of this particular vrata, and he will become 49. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur interestingly says that there are two indications given. One, 49 jivas entered one embryo and then they were divided by Indra. Or one jiva was broken into 49 pieces and then 48 jivas entered those pieces. So both are indicated by various scholars. Both of them seem very complicated to us. This is like possibly the first cloning. Kashyapa honored her request that he will grant her a benediction, and then immediately started lamenting. He became sorrowful. Great sin has come to me today, he was lamenting. So this is a classic case of making an offer without due discretion. Just do it. That's not the best way for anybody to give a commitment. In Krishna consciousness especially, integrity is of the highest value. We should never make a commitment that we cannot fulfill. We're so used to making minor commitments that I will come in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, do they really matter? I'm coming from Delhi. For us, there's nothing called 5 minutes. Bas ho raha hai, ab bhi ho raha hai. Aap hi ke paas aa raha hu. People say things like this. It doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean anything. So as a sadhaka, the level of integrity that we should have to meet our commitment should be very high. Consequently, we should think 10 times before making any kind of commitment. We know from history famous commitments that landed the person who granted the commitment into trouble. We know about Dasharath Maharaj. We know about even Brahmaji himself. The commitment he made to Hiranyakashipu. The Lord himself is chastising him, don't do this again. So we got to be a little careful. But one commitment that we have made after due thought, after at least duly and assessing our level of surrender to the spiritual master, the commitment of 4 regulated principles and 16 rounds every day, that requires the maximum integrity. And if you're able to maintain that vow with integrity, all other vows will easily follow. So here, Pumsavana Vrata that she's maintaining seems very complicated. We don't need to do Pumsavana Vrata. Even in Mahaprabhu's story, it comes how Payo Vrata, she's taking milk. Mahaprabhu's story also, there is this Brahmana who wanted to take part in Sankirtan by drinking milk. And how Mahaprabhu chastises him, said, do you think you can actually do it? But that the advantage of the Sankirtana Yajna is Tatrarpita Nemita Smaranena Kalaha. You don't have these kind of complications. That there are devotees who get up in the morning, just wash their hand and feet and sit and start japa. They don't even wait for taking bath and all those things. Again, taking bath is an ISKCON usage. Bathing. So they don't. Tatrarpita Nemita Smaranena Kalaha. For Matajis, there are some certain inauspicious days of the month. On those days also they are allowed to chant. This is Nityannikam. They have to chant. So, upon hearing Diti's request, therefore, Kashyapa was lamenting, what have I done? So he says that because I am attached to Maya, in the form of my wife, he is saying. And this is interesting because the same Kashyapa who did the same thing and lamented the same way with the same Diti. So we can see how great personalities also can be captivated by this alluring, enrapturing potency of Maya. So he is saying, I will definitely fall in hell, being in my miserable position, Kashyapa is saying. So, and then he says, he rationalizes, what offense is there for a woman if he follows her nature? Her nature is to be cruel. I know the brahmacharis are laughing and the matajis are smirking when you say the nature of women is cruel. But there is a famous incident. Which spiritual organization in the whole world has every day the Sringar Darshan Arti chanted by a woman? Only ISKCON. Across the world, across generations. And she is not a woman, she is a Vaishnavi. Prabhupada really said this. When some senior Vaishnavis went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, people say women are less intelligent, cruel and everything. How do we take this? He said, you are Vaishnavis. Similarly, there was a very senior Acharya of ISKCON, who was a great book distributor, who was dark in color, So people used to have racist remarks made against him. And he went to Srila Prabhupada and said this, that Prabhupada, they're saying, making all these remarks, I'm getting disturbed. Prabhupada said that if you really believe in what they say, you should be disturbed. So, to the extent that we allow ourselves to be body conscious, we have these distinctions. Otherwise, book distribution, there may be some services for Prabhus, some Prabhu services for Matajis, but book distribution doesn't discriminate, and Srila Prabhupada engaged everyone in book distribution. So by the same token, all negativity that she was following Payovrata, the negativity in her heart eventually got purified. Similarly, when we engage in Sankirtan Yajna, irrespective of we are Prabhus, Matajis, whatever, because we are Dasas and Dasis, that whatever negative tendencies we may have in our heart will also disappear by the careful observance of this vrata, even if we make mistakes. That's the beauty of Mahaprabhu's movement. So I will, okay, we have time till 9:10, right? What I got a message saying till 9:10 and then 10 minutes question answers. My message says that. Now I don't know if it is true or 9:10 including question answers. Huh? Acha, like that. So I got a message saying 8:10 to 9:10 and then 9:10 to 9:20 question answers. Anyway, I will finish by 9:10, don't worry. I don't have to, my lead sessions are over. So, very interesting phrase, it talks about the nature of women. Hridayam kshuradharabhyam strinam ko veda cheshtitam. They have faces like lotuses. They have lotuses blooming in autumn. And kirti srivakcha narinam. The Bhagavad Gita also says. Krishna himself says, I am sweet words or fine speech in women. So words sweet to the ears. They have words sweet to the ears, lotus like faces. But then, how are their hearts like? Shurasya dhara. Probably why they say Shurasya dhara nishita durateya. The biggest challenge to spiritual life is attraction to the opposite gender. And that is why walking on it like, therefore uttishtata jagrata praptavarani bodhata. Shurasya dhara nishita durateya. So nobody is dear to women. Chanakya Pandit says, Bharya Rupavati Shatru. And Rupavati is a matter of perspective. So, by default, somebody who is attracted to the opposite gender will have to face unlimited difficulties. So then, Kashyapa came up with a beautiful plan. He said, I will teach her Vaishnava austerity. When her heart becomes pure because of this austerity, then she will no longer want to kill Indra. That violent tendency will disappear because she is performing Vaishnava austerity. A Vaishnava vow is that the advantage of a Vaishnava vow is that it will not bestow evil results, even if desired. However, then the words of request in our prayer can be nullified. So, because we said Indraha, it becomes follower of Indra. So, therefore, there will be some kind of irregularity in her performance. Still, because she is performing the vow, she is meditating on the Supreme Lord, the result will still be given. Her efforts will be successful. So, it thought like that, Kashyapa. And Indraha Deva Bandhava Samvatsaram Vratamidam. So, she started this vrata for 1 year, trying to have a son who will be able to kill Indra or one who will eventually become a follower of Indra. Nahim Syat Bhuta Jatani, the first principle of the Payovrata told by Kashyapa to Aditi is what? Nahim Syat Bhuta Jatani, please don't harm anyone. So by default that covers Indra, right? So the first rule therefore that itself forbids her from killing Indra. So then there are many rules given. Do not enter water while bathing. There are a whole series of things. I think Devkinandam Prabhu addressed them in great detail. Some of it was very scary for us. I could notice that the very next day the same day the brahmachari who led Kirtan in the lead seminar was singing the same afternoon tune that he was talking about. And I was thinking 10 times before I could start my Kirtan on Guru Puja, after Guru Puja. So then I also sang only the morning melody. I did not sing any fancy tune. Although I was planning which tune I'll sing. On the day after that I had to lead Guru Puja Kirtan. So anyways, so there are many rules and regulations that are mentioned for this. But the beautiful rule that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes is that Mantrata Santarta Chidram Desha Kalarha Vastutaha Sarvam Karoti Nishchidram Anusankirtanam Tava. In the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam it comes that there may be some discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing of the regulative principles. Mantrata, Tantrata, Chidram. There may be some mistakes. Because of Desha Kala Arha Vastutaha, in terms of time, place and the ingredients and the paraphernalia. But Sarvam Karoti Nishchidram, everything is nullified when Anusankirtanam Tava, by chanting your names, everything becomes faultless. So Indra definitely could not find any fault in her performance of the verse. Mahapurusha Pujaya Siddhi Kapya Anusangini. So there is when you perform great vratas, liberation is a secondary result that happens. So she was, therefore gradually, she was really, really purified. And the word used here, Jihmaha. Jihmaha means he was deceitful. He disguised, just like a hunter disguises himself as a deer to cheat the deer and hunt the deer. Similarly, Indra disguised himself as a devoted servant to cheat Diti. Asprishta varyadautangrihi suswapa vidhi mohita. She became very thin because of her austerity. Where else is it mentioned about a wife becoming very, very thin because of austerity? Devoti. So, austerities are an integral aspect of Grihasthashram. This is a very interesting part. Though people enter Grihasthashram thinking that there is less tapasya, the reality is there is greater tapasya in Grihasthashram, because there is nobody monitoring your morning program. Technically, nobody writes you don't have a attendance book at home where you have to sign, or there is no impositions 108 times Mahamantra for coming late. It's nothing there. And also technically you have Maya personified in the form of husband and Maya personified in the form of wife, sleeping next to each other, and then expected to follow the vows of Grihasthashram, which is tougher. Even within the mind we are struggling, many of us, to handle material desires. To have the opportunity to not act on a desire despite the sense object being right next to you is great tapasya. On top of that, a Grihastha has to take care of taking not just himself back to Godhead, he has to take care of his family also to going back to Godhead. Guru na sasyat, sujano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janai na sasyat, devam na sasyat, anna patin na sasyat. Everything is covered. Interestingly, I didn't hear the word patni in that. It says janani and pati. It doesn't talk about patni. Possibly because a patni she attains her completion as a janani. Also here the patni has grown thin because of tapasya. Tapasya is very, very crucial. But what she did was, we don't always perform achaman before chanting Mahamantra. Maybe maximum we may wash our hands if we have access to water, or that spray that we have, ISKCON spray. So here she had to, after accepting prasadam, whatever little, she forgot to wash her hands and feet and rinse her mouth and perform achaman. Brahmanas should ideally, at least after every bath, do full achaman. Those who are pujaris, I am sure, are doing. But those who are not regular pujaris and brahmanas must also try to do that, because it gives us that sense of rigor to the Pancharatrika Vidhi within our Bhagavat Vidhi. And she went and slept during the twilight. So like two mistakes. In the Mahabharata also there is a story of Nala and Damayanti, when Nala forgot to wash the heel or the back of his feet, and Kali entered through that. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita extensively talks about, you read any prasanga of prasadam, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it says, after honoring prasadam, they wash their hands, mouth and feet. Many contexts where they say that. So washing the feet is therefore integral here. In our case, she did not even perform achaman and also didn't wash her feet. So, finding this fault, Indra is a master of yoga. Indra is not just a Stri Lampata, a powerful personality. There are many places where it said Indra is one of the greatest warriors. And you cannot become Indra unless you performed 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas. It's not a small thing. We're not dealing with an ordinary personality here. And he had all the siddhis at hand. Anima, Lagima, Garima, Prapti, Kama, Vashada. All those he had. So he entered her womb. I found this quite funny. He cut the 7 embryos and all of them in 7 places they started crying. And then he says, please don't cry. So this is like, the non-vegetarians talking about world peace while cutting the neck of animals. You can't say, Aja beta, tera gardan kaat raha hu. Where is it possible? So, he said, do not cry to comfort them. But then he cut them into 7 more parts. So, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, that some say that a single jiva can expand into 49 forms for a short period of time. Of course, a yogi or somebody else, especially enjoying lot of piety and some sin, he can also do that. Others say that knowing the future event, that it is going to happen. So 49 jivas entered into one body. And then they entered into each of the 49 parts which were again created by Indra cutting them. Alternately, it is mentioned that 48 more jivas entered each of the other parts after they were cut into 49. Complicated arithmetic. So then Indra cut up, to the moment Indra cut up just one fetus. So it is mentioned here that separate jivas entered into each part or piece, just like Prabhupada gives the example in the purport as well, that just like a person cuts the branch of a creeper or a bush and plants them in the ground. Prabhupada uses the word hill. They plants them. So just like that, multiple jivas could come in. So just a few more points that I'd like to focus on. One, of course, is the fact that we may consider Bharya Rupavati Shatru and all that thing, and we got to be very, very careful when we think about these things. I remember an incident where one of my friends who was in the Brahmachari ashram, after being in the ashram for about 12 years or so, he decided to enter Grahastha ashram. And after 2-3 years, they had a child also. And they were having prasadam in an extreme corner. It was a festival and therefore different timings. So those who were serving were eating in separate places. So I was also in the same room but in a different corner. But I could overhear their conversation. It was very loud. So this Mataji was getting up and she was telling her husband, Maya is very strong. Mataji is telling her husband, Maya is very strong. And then this Prabhu, who is my friend, he told her, this you are telling me? She's saying Maya is very strong. So that's really the point. Maya is strong for the husband and Maya is strong for the wife. Because Krishna says, Devi Kesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratya. He doesn't say this shloka is applicable only to Prabhus or Matajis. Therefore, we should be very careful in treating this. I remember once, we had a Leads program sometime in, I think, 2010 or 11 in Delhi. When first you had started along with Bhakti Bhagat Maharaj, around that time. So, one group, in one of the group exercises, they showed a video. You must have seen this video about Maya thing. This is person who comes to a abandoned fortress where he sees various stone statues, right? And then suddenly, so that is the name of the videos. Okay, Kala Kanya. So then later on he gets stung by that girl who embraces him, and then he also turns into stone. So they showed this video, and then His Holiness Bhakti Bhagat Maharaj gave an earful to that team. For 15 minutes he spoke. He's saying, how will you feel if you're a woman, if you're constantly called Maya, Maya, Maya? Would you feel good? So you've got to be very careful. But these prasangas are meant for the sadhakas who have to take their life seriously. You may be in whichever body, but to understand that attraction to the opposite gender is, or following the diktats of the opposite gender is not necessarily a good thing. So in ISKCON especially we talked about how Vaishnavis are there and how Yamuna Mataji's Arati we discussed. But still for brahmacharis, the principle is quite easy. Matruvat paradareshu. And everybody is paradareshu. So there is no question of any other issue. And caution, brahmacharis in any ashram, even grasthas are brahmacharis. They have to perform brahmacharya. Maybe up one slight choot or license given is dharma aviruddha bhuteshu kamasmi bharatarshava. So maybe as per instructions of spiritual master, for a certain purpose husband and wife may unite. But apart from that, the understanding should be very clear that matruvat paradareshu. So this will protect us. Secondly, we are fortunate that I've mentioned this in many lectures. I heard this from His Grace Madan Mohan Prabhu first, from Russia. He says that SP is Srila Prabhupada and I is ISKCON. If you remove SP and I, it is not spiritual, it is just ritual. So what Diti was doing was a ritual in one sense. But we also do austerity without due sanction by the acharyas and the association of devotees. We do our own thing. Then it will remain a ritual. So we got to ensure that we belong. We don't do weird aikantike Hare Bhakti. That will cause utpata. Then we also discussed how Sarvam Karoti Nishchidram Anusankirtanam Tava. Performance of Sankirtan will ensure that all kind of mistakes in any of the tapasya we are doing in our services is overcome. Ma bhaishta bhrataro mayam yuyam ityaha kaushikaha. Indra spoke. Ma bhaishta, you are my brothers. Bhrataro mahyam, my brothers. Bhrataro mahyam. Therefore what? Ma bhaishta, don't worry. You are my brothers, therefore don't worry. If you are not my brothers, you have to worry. You have to be scared. I am Nicha Paroveti Ganana Lagu Chetasa Udara Charitanam to Vasudeva Kudumbakam. The broad-minded people consider everybody as a family. Not that one who supports me, one who likes me. Even in Krishna consciousness, we have to be very careful. People who sometimes support us, we treat them as our friends, and some people who oppose us, we treat them as enemies. And what did Tukaram Maharaj say? Ninda kanse ghari asaje asave cesari. He said, one who's let my house be next to that of a critique, my worst critique. And Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur also said the same thing. So, if we get into this trap that somebody who supports me is mine, I am Nija Paroveti. This is based on bhaya. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya. It is because of duality of the body and the soul being separate. We think separately, we get in a body consciousness. Therefore, we look at distinctions of people who like me, people who don't like me. What is the Sanskrit word used in the shloka for defending? Bhaya. It is not Atma Suraksha. Ahara Nidra Bhaya Maitunamcha. One starts defending because of Bhaya. It is easy to give up eating, mating, sleeping in the Brahmacharya ashram or any ashram. It is very difficult to give up defending. Defending is because of Bhaya. And in one sense, it is the animals who defend. The more we defend, the more we are animalistic. In fact, a pure devotee is such that he does not even have the intrinsic desire for him to be saved. Srila Rupa Goswami talks about Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. It is not Abhilasha Shunyam, it is Abhilashita. Why is it Abhilashita? He may sometimes be in danger and remark, Krishna, save me. But this is not his most intrinsic desire. His most intrinsic desire is merely to please Krishna. He does not even want to be saved in that sense. He may externally be making a remark like that. Or we take the example of Dadichi, who was also challenged. He had to give up his body for the Devatas. The same Indra who was threatened by Vritrasura. At that time, to prepare the Vajra, this was done. So, etavat janma sapalyam dehina meha deshu pranayararther dhiya vacha shreya acharanam sada. We should try, and therefore paropaharartham idam shariram. Paropakarartham idam shariram. Some or the other try to help others using this body. May I take the liberty of quoting from an old Hindi movie song? It's not Shastrik, but I thought it fits in here. Okay, let me close with this. Jeena uska jeena hai jo auron ko jeevan deta hai. So here Indra is trying to take the life of people who are a threat to his life. And Diti, we see the example of how he is able to give up his life in order that somebody else may live. The choice is ours. Srila Prabhupada ki. Questions, comments? Do you want to add something, please? Revati bro, add something. Sarvalakshmi bro. Questions? Yes. Arjuna Ishwar Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for very nice explanation of this verse as well as all previous slokas you clarified. So one question is, when he say sakraha, so I'm just asking, the person who is chanting the mantra either in yagya or who is giving benediction with this sakraha, so what he is thinking in his mind, that is going to happen, or those who are Sanskrit scholar who are going to separate the verse and tell this is going to happen? So what is going to happen?
Interestingly, one thing is the mantra that is given by the sadhaka only will act. Like I chant some other mantras also along with the Gayatris that I have received. But those are not given by my spiritual master. I'm chanting them for my own interest, not of my purification. Or whatever, I think there will be some purification. They are Vishnu mantras. But really the mantra has its siddhi only if it is given by the sadhaka. So the intent of the sadhaka in giving the mantra is also critical. Kashyapa has given the mantra. He has given the mantra to Diti, what has to be chanted. In mentioning the benefits of the mantra, he says it will be Indraha or Shakraha. So his intent is that while doing this, she will be purified and she will not kill Indra. And the person who comes will therefore not be just Indra's killer, but be Indra's follower. So his intent when granting the mantra is also very critical. Because of that, because she was in a very, very servile manner, just following his instructions to the T. Therefore, she had this sort of a benefit. But in Kali Yuga, fortunately for us, we don't have this problem because there is no question of mantra lupti. There's only one mantra that we need to know. And there also we have issues. We chant, what is it called, mantra akshara. We don't often chant the mantra itself or meditate on the mantra artha. So this is the understanding that I have, that in general, the potency is invested in the mantra by the sadhaka. Of course, the bija mantra is given by a person. The Rishi will invest his potency. Apart from that, the sadhaka invests the potency. If you see Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj giving HareKrishna mantra in the Harinam Diksha, I don't know how many of you noticed Maharaj initiating? One thing he does is, he will chant the HareKrishna mantra and he says that those who are getting initiated should hear this. Others should cover their ears and not chant. Others should just cover their ears. Because if you don't, it's interesting, it's the way he puts it. You will have to take the karma of all these people. What he's trying to say in a manner is that the mantra is invested with the potency by the sadhaka and the guru. So here, that will give the purified intent of the person giving the mantra will result in the purified outcome of the mantra. Otherwise, in those ages, you saw how when mantrahinam caused such a problem, Vritrasura became, of course it was not a problem, it was a benefit. Vritrasura arrived because of that. So it can really happen. Because at that time the intent was not clear. And Tvashta, when he chanted the mantra, intent was not clear and his intent was not pure and it was not Krishna's will as well. Also Chitraketu being born as Vritra. There are so many conglomerations that had to happen, configuration. In this case, it was very clear that in one sense, I have to see whether it's mentioned elsewhere that the Maruts were supposed to be there. Maruts had to come and they had to become, like it's mentioned here, 48 Jivas seeing what is going to happen entered into the womb. So there is a destined moment in which it is bound to happen. Therefore, we can safely assume that it's because of the intent of the sadhaka. This is my understanding.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, another question is, this Pumsavan Vrata, it is so powerful. As you mentioned, she simply did the ritual. See, like we are also doing the bhakti process. We are trying to do very seriously, at least trying. So she only did the ritual and she got purified. So this I want to understand. Simply by doing the ritual, how she got purified?
Yeah, it's also because of the Yuga. There's the benefits of the Yuga also. Kalau dosha nide rajan. So there is no other option. That's the Keko Mahadguna. In Satya Yuga, people in general had greater capabilities of austerity. So what she was, we may kid ourselves saying that we are doing bhakti properly. But we were discussing this morning in terms of austerity that people perform. Really, what austerity are we able to do compared to what they were able to do? Every Bhishma Panchak time I get freaked out when I hear devotees doing 5 days Nirjala. So once a year Nirjala we think is a major achievement. So and there are many sadhakas in Vraja and Navdeep who hardly take prasadam, who hardly sleep and are constantly doing bhajan. And they are also preaching. So we really don't know whether what we are doing is fine, because this Yuga is not meant to facilitate this kind of tapasya. In previous ages, they say in English, average Joe. The average Joe was also austere in Satyuga. Basically, that is why you could see how many years did Hiranyakashipu perform austerity. Although he is no ordinary person. He is Sri Hiranyakashipu Vacha. Bhagavatam says like that, right? How many years? 36,000, 60,000. How many years? 10,000 Deta years, huh? जो भी 36 का आंकड़ा है. So those levels of austerity was more natural in Satyuga. So the basic standard was itself so high. That is why they could perform Dhyayate Vishnu. So in this when they are performing this Payovrata, she was not meditating on it. Of course, you are worshipping the husband, but clearly the connection was to Vishnu. There was no contamination. So therefore, she was able to benefit. Because in Kali Yuga, that level of purity is not there. Despite our best efforts, we may not get the best result. It is Mahaprabhu's mercy that we are able to get some results. Because Mahaprabhu has provided this process through Guru Parampara. So my understanding is, Prabhu, you want to just correct me here? Right. Thank you. You can take one question. Mothers, any question? Okay. We can conclude here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitya Nitya Gaur Sitanath Premanande.